Hello friends and welcome back for another episode of Indie Impressions. My name is Nick and today I've got another one of those little mini micro games that I seem to be running into more and more frequently lately, and I don't remember if I said this on the last episode, and if I did I apologize, but I think this might be the last one for a little while. I don't know, I've just been charmed lately by all of these very addictive tiny little games, and this one in particular is called Marble Incline by developer Silver's Edge, and this is from Lowresjam 2014, and the premise here is that we're going to be controlling a marble in a marble maze with only a 32 by 32 resolution. So I don't know if that's going to be easy to do or hard to do or what, but it sounds like it's going to be pretty interesting regardless. I don't even understand how you make a marble with so few pixels involved, because it's going to end up kind of square. Anyway, let's give it a shot, see how it goes, and if it's fun, well, you'll know where to go give it a try. So here we go. Start. Controls are left and right. Jump is on Z. So I'm going to click one more time. Apparently I need to click with the mouse in order to activate all of the UI elements, and then the game itself I use the keyboard for. That's a little strange. Maybe I can use enter or something. I didn't try that. So that was our first course. Went by very, very quickly. Very, very blocky, I noticed. Let's try enter here, see if that advances the menu. It does not. Enter, spacebar, Z, left and right. Okay, so we do actually seem to have to click unless there's another button I'm not aware of. So let's take a moment and take in the scenery here, even though it's going to make me a bit slow. So our marble is indeed very blocky, in fact, and it seems to be that the graphic for the marble seems to swap on the X and Y axis, or the, mirror rather, when I go left and go right, which I guess makes sense. And it's also interesting to see the thing scaling and rotating as it starts to build up a little bit of momentum, and it seems like the thing builds momentum like it's going down a crazy freaking hill, which is kind of funny. I'm just sort of examining, like, the premise here is that we're supposed to be able to go very quickly through this marble maze, but we have very, very little forewarning of what is coming up in advance. And I've played games in this sort of vein before. I've played one of my favorites, actually, from back in the day. It was called On the Ball for the SNES, and it involved a very kind of surrealistic, abstract presentation in a marble maze, and you rotate the entire maze around the ball and use gravity to manipulate the thing through all sorts of obstacles and impediments. And I kind of feel like this channels that a little bit, only you just can't see very far ahead of you, which I guess is sort of the blessing and the curse of making a low-res-jam style game. Like, obviously you don't have a lot of field of view to work with, but when it intersects with the concept of the game, in that, well, you obviously need to see a little bit ahead of you to make informed decisions about how you're going to manipulate the marble, it does sort of affect the gameplay a little bit substantially. Also, a little tricky to manipulate when you can't see if you're jumping up into a ceiling, and in this case I seem to be pretty often. There's also something to be said, though, for that being sort of the gimmick, if you think about it. Sort of like you're in a cave in the dark, in that your frame of vision is like sort of a fog of war or something like that in strategy games where you just can't really see very far ahead of you. Now, in those sorts of games, most of the time you have a little bit of extra time for reactions, and this time you're kind of relying on your reaction time and dexterity, and when you have to keep making these jumps over and over again, I guess the only thing that you can really use to your advantage is just if you have a really good memory, and then it becomes more about experiential learning, which I guess is sort of a different direction to take something like this in. I could see if this was more of a polished presentation, that perhaps this could be something that speedrunners might get involved with. As it stands, it seems like sort of the only proper strategy seems to be to just jump in place all the time, in the hopes that maybe you'll sort of permanently ratchet yourself forward, but then again, that could kind of come back to bite you in that you run into the walls and things so frequently, maybe you'll just end up taking longer to do anything. But yeah, again, this could be sort of like when I'm running through Meat Boy, where each level becomes its sort of a rote repetition of understanding which level it is, how you react very quickly, and when to hit those buttons. But even in Meat Boy's case, there's actually a little bit more forewarning about what's coming up. People don't really realize this, but when you first start a level in that, there's like about a second before you actually have control of your character, and you actually can kind of use that time to remember, okay, this is where I am, let's get oriented, let's get situated, and prepare our hands for the task ahead. And now I'm noticing we seem to have this sort of ketchup and mustard style graphical thing going on, where we've got some red and some yellow all happening, whereas prior levels seem to only be focused on one color scheme at a time. Oh, okay, we've reached the end. I was wondering how many levels there were going to be, and I guess that's going to be about it. So I don't know what that ended up being, like probably 20 or so. I went by through them pretty quickly, and it doesn't seem to necessarily store your scores either. But, it's a game jam game. It was probably created in a very short amount of time. The presentation, as far as the gimmick of, controlling a marble and low-res environment, there's some positives, some negatives to it, like I went over. The sound and all of that seemed like it was very well executed, and the game functioned ideally, I mean, as well as I think I could have expected it to. I just wish you were zoomed out a little bit further, but again, with the resolution, you can't really ask something like that, I suppose. Also, I can't not read Mission Impossible in the MI there. Also, I kind of see the Nerd Cube logo a little bit in the red and white, but maybe that's just my mind going to funny places. So, if you enjoyed Marble Incline, feel free to go try it out yourself. There is a download link in the description. You can feel free to grab it. There are plenty of other things to check out in the description as well, too, if you want to see some of my other social media links, like my Facebook, my Twitter, and of course my Twitch page where I stream on occasion. You can feel free to stop by those as well. If you enjoyed the video, consider leaving a like on it. That does help me, or help the show rather, aggregate and find a new audience, so, every little bit helps in that respect. And of course, if you enjoyed it, feel free to come on back tomorrow. New episodes of Indie Impressions go up every single day without exception, so if you're up for finding out about a new indie game every single day, albeit, a strange, artistic, original, or unique one, this is probably the place for you. And if you find yourself here all the time, consider subscribing, because that also helps out the channel significantly. So thank you everybody for watching as always. Hope you enjoyed the video, and I hope you have a fantastic night. I'll see you all tomorrow.